1 to 3 to receive the Torah, open our hearts for revelation, Matan Torah, Mamad Har Sinai. Brachot of gratitude, page 103, we rise together.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher natan l'sachvivina l'habchin beno uvein laila.
Amen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam shasani betzalmo.
Amen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam she'asani bat chorim.
Amen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam shasani Yisrael.
Amen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam פוקח עברים.
אמן. ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם מלביש ערומים.
אמן. ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם מתיר אסורים.
אמן. ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם זוקף כפופים.
אמן. ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם רקע הארץ על המים.
אמן. ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם המכין מצעדי גבר.
אמן. ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם שעשה לי כל צורכי.
אמן. ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם עוזי ישראל בגבורה.
אמן. ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם מותר ישראל בתפארה.
אמן. ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם הנותן יאהב כוח.
122.
ברוך שאמר והיה עולם ברוך הוא ברוך עושה וראשים ברוך עושה ברוך עושה מקיים ברוך עושה חרב ברוך שמו ברוך מלך העולם
יחיד חעולמי מלך משובח ומפואר יד שמו הגדול. ברוך אתה אדוני מלך מהולל ותשבחו.
Amen. You may be seated. We turn to page 141. 141 at the top.
Hallelujah, 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 El Bechukotai, hallelujah, Bechukotai, hallelujah, Bechukotai, hallelujah, Gerogolo, hallelujah, 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 hallelujah. Take a shofar, hallelujah, b'neve v'chinor, hallelujah, b'tof u'machol, hallelujah, b'minim ve'ogav, hallelujah, 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 hallelujah. Tzele shama, hallelujah. Tzil tzele trua, kol haneshama tehallelujah, kol haneshama tehallelujah. Hallelujah, 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 hallelujah.
Continue page 145.
נשמת כל החי תברך שמך אדוני אלוהינו וכל מסד ממנו ונמצא ונמצא צמוקן ולמר משפחות שנים נדמים אילופינו יש וקיים שוננו ומגלה נתנו נעלמים מיננו נתנו לשנות סנדפינו Bottom 146. Mi in melach, umi shvela, umi arogla. Hagibor vanora.
El Elyon kone shamayim va'aretz. Na'ala lecha neshabechecha.
On va'echa va'echet shem v'odrecha gamor.
לדוד ברכינו בשנאי וכל קרבי את שם קודשו
147
בתעצומות
וזה הגדול בכבוד שמך הגיבור
לנצח
ונורא ובנורותיך
המלך היושב על כיסא דם ונישא
שוכן עד מרום וקדוש שמו
וכתוב רננו צדיקים באדוני לישרים נאווה תהילה
בפי שירים תתהלל
ודברי צדיקים תתברך
ובשון חסידות תתרומם
ובקרב
קדוש יגדל ומקלות רבבות עמך בית ישראל להודו לשווה לברך כסוכות דברי שירות ותשבחות דוד בן ישי עבדך. Please rise. 148. ישתבח שמך לעד מלכנו מלך הגדול הקדוש בשמיים. ברכות והודות מעתה ועד עולם. ברוך אתה אדוני אל מלך גדול בתשבחות אל הודעות אדון הנפלאות הבוכה בשירי זמרה מלך אל חיי העולמים יתגדל ויתקדש שמי רבה בימיו יברח חירותי ומיך מלכותי בחיי כל מכון ובחייך בישראל בעגלה בזמן קריב ואמרו אמן שמי רבה וברא לעולם עולם יתברך וישתבח ויתפאר ויתרומם ויתנשא ויתהדר ויתהלל שמי קודשה בריחום לילה מכל ברכתה ושירתה תושחתה ונחמתה דם מרן בעלמה ואמרו אמן. 149 ברכו את אדוני המבורך.
ברוך אדוני המבורך לעולם ועד.
ברוך אדוני המבורך לעולם ועד. 150 ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם יוצר אור ובורא חושך עוזר שלום אוהד הכל. Middle 152 המלך זנים למודים מה רבו מסכנם עשית מארץ כנך מלך מאומם אל ברוך גדול יחד נפוי זכוי תתברך אדוני ראינו שבב מעשה ידיך אומר רואי או שעשית יפרוך סלע תתברך צחקן מלכן וישתוק. Top 153 כולם אהובים, כולם ברורים, כולם גיבורים וכולם עושים אימה וירא רצון קונם וכולם פותחים מפיהם בקדושה ותורה בשירה וזמרה מברכים משבחים מפארים מעריצים מקדישים וממליכים את שם האל המלך הגדול וכולם מקמים עליהם על מלכות שמיים זה מזה ונותנים רשות זה לזה להקדיש עוצם הנחת רוח בשפה ובנימה קדושה כולם כאחד עונים ואומרים ביראה קדוש 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 הרי צבאות מלוך הארץ כבודו אופנים וחת הקודש ברעש גדול מן הסין למצרפים לעומתם משבחים ואומרים ברוך כבוד אדוני ממקומות אל ברוך נימות אל חי וקיים
אור חדש הציון תאיר
54, bring our tzitzit together to prepare for Shema Yisrael. Ava, Rav Tanun Eloheinu, Chemla Gdora v'tirachmat Aleinu, Avinu Malkeinu, Rachim Aleinu, v'tein libenu, וקרבתנו לשמך גדוסלה באמת, להודות לך ולחטאך מיעבה. ברוך אתה אדוני, הבוחר עמו ישראל מאהבה. שמע Israel, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. ואהבת את אדוני אלוהיך בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודיך, והיו הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על לבביך, ושיננתם לבניך ודיברת בם בשיתך בביתך ובלתך בדרך ושוכבך וקומך, וקשרתם להיות על ידיך, והיו לטוטפו בין עיניך, וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך, וישרך. Page 156, ויהי שמוע תשמעו צלשנוכי, מצווכם ולמודו, הדייסס, לא תתנס. וכתבתם את ביתך. זכרתם את כל מצוות, תזכרו.
אדוני אלוהיכם אמת.
אמת יציב, נכון קיים ושם, נאמן הוא.
לדור ודור קיים ושמו קיים, וכיסא נכון ומלכותו ומלכותו לעד קיים.
157. זו ישראל עבדיך ראשונים ואחרונים.
שאתה אדוני אלוהינו ואלוהי אבותינו ואמותינו מלכנו מלך אבותינו ואמותינו גואלנו גואל אבותינו ואמותינו יוצרנו צור ישועתנו פודנו ומצילנו מעולם שמך
אלוהים זולתך עזרה לאבותינו ואמותינו עתה ומעולם. אמרו משפטיך אשרי איש משפטותיך. אמת אמת מצוותנו. Middle 158.
תהילה לאליון ברוך וברך משה ומרים ובני ישראל לכנו שירה בשמחה רבה יאמרו כולם מי כמוך בנים אדוני מי כמוך נדעת בקודש נוראתי לו תוספת שירה חדשה שיבחו גאולים לשמך שפת הים יחד כולם הודו והמליכו ואמרו אדוני אלוהינו
לעולם ועד צור ישראל קומה בעזרת ישראל קומה עובדינו לך יהודה וישראל צור ישראל קומה גואלנו אדוני צבאות שמו קדוש 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 ישראל.
ברוך אתה אדוני God
Chevra, page 306. 306 in our Siddurim. First few pages we dive in together through the Kedusha, about 308. Let's just then silently remember the insertion special for Shavuot. Zman Matan Torah, the time of giving of the Torah. Special on this beautiful day of Shavuot, page 306.
Adonai
Sevadai ninahu v'yagidilatecha Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu Elohei avoteinu v'imotenu Elohei Avraham Elohei Yitzchak Elohei Yaakov Elohei Zara Elohei Rivka אלוהי רחל ולאה, האל הגדול, הגיבור והנורא, אל עליון, גומל חסדים טובים, וקונה הכל, וזוכר חסדי אבות ואמהות, ומביא גואל לבני בניהם, למען שמו ויאהבה, מלך עוזר ופוקד משיח ומגן, ברוך אתה אדוני, מגן אברהם ופוקד שרה, אתה גיבור לעולם אדוני, מחיים מתים מטרה להושיע, מוריד הטל, להקל חיים בחסד, מחיי מתים ברחמים רבים, סומך נופלים ורופא חולים, ומתיר אסורים, ומקיים אמונתו, משני עפר, מי כמוך בגבורות, ומדומה לך, מלך ממין ומחיה, ומצמיח ישועה.
ונאמן אתה לחיות מתים, ברוך אתה אדוני,
בשמו
מתים,
אמן.
נקדש את שבך בעולם, כשם שמקדישים אותו בשמי מרום, ככתוב על ימיך
וקרא זה ויאמר קדוש קדוש קדוש
אדוני צבאות
מלוך על הארץ גבולו
אז בקול רעש גדול
אדיר וחזק משמיעים קול
מנסים לעומת צרפים לעומתם ברוך יאמרו
ברוך כבוד עיני ממקומו
ממקומם מלכנו תופיע ותמלוך עלינו כי מחכים אנחנו לך מתי תמלוך בציון בקרוב בימינו לעולם ועד תשכון תתגדל ותתקדש בתוך ירושלים עירך לדור ודור ולנצח נצחים ועינינו תראינו מלכותך כדבר האמור בשירי עוזך על ידי דוד משיח צדקך
ימלוך אדוני לעולם אלוהיך ציון לדור ודור הללויה
לדור ודור נגיד גודלך ולנצח נצחים קדושתך נקדיש בשפעך לנו נפיל שלם ועד כי על מלך גדול וקדוש אתה ברוך אתה אדוני האל הקדוש
אמן. כי מציון תצא תורה, ודבר אדוני, כי מציון, כי מציון, כי מציון תצא תורה, ודבר אדוני מירושלים, ודבר אדוני מירושלים, ודבר אדוני מירושלים, ודבר אדוני מירושלים. Chevra, we rise and remain standing, page 316, to enjoy the celebration of Shavuot of Bissol Hallel. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav, ve'etzivanu likro et ha'halel. Hallelujah.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav, ve'etzivanu likro et ha'halel.
Amen. Hallelujah. Shemesh mavo. מקימים מעפר דם, אשפודרים אביון, לא שבעים נדיבים, נדיבי עמו. מושיב עקרת הבית, הם הבנים שמחה, הללויה. וצאת ישראל ממצרים, את יעקב עם לוהר, הייתה יהודה לגודשו, ישראל ממלודה. Keduchelim Gevalot Kivnei Tzon Malech Hayam Gidanos Hayadem Disov Leachot He'arim Keduchelim Gevalot Kivnei Tzon Milivnei Adam Chole Haaretz Milivnei Elohai Yaakov Haochim Hatzor HaGamayim Halamish
V'mayno
Mayim Lo Lanu Nai Lo Lanu Kiddush Shimcha Ten Kavod 317 Achastecha V'techa Pelehem Lo Yaberu Enem Lo Yavu Yisrael Betach B'Adonai Ezra Maginamu Beisaro Betchuv Adonai Ezra Maginamu Yirei Adonai Betchuv Adonai Ezra Maginam Adonai Zecharani V'lei Areh Beit Yisrael Areh Beit Aharon Areh Yirei Adonai Agdanim Dolim Yosef Adonai Alechem Alechem V'Avneihem V'Rochim Adel Adonai Oseh Shamayim 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 L'Adonai V'Haaretz Natan Livnei Adam Lo Hamesim Yehalelu Hallelujah Ve'Locho Yerdei Dov Avanagno Nevaya Me'ata V'Yad Olam Me'ata V'Yad Olam Hallelujah Tishma Adonai Kol Yidachnunai 3:18 Avoni Chavema V'Metzoim Meshumitzouni Ana Emanata Nafshi Shumedim Adonai Lotem אתהלך לפני אדוני בארצות החיים, האמנתי כי אדבר אני עניתי מאוד. אני דברתי בחופשי, כל אדם, כל זה משיב לי, כל תגמולי עלי, כל שעושה בשם אדוני יקרא, ונשלם. לך אזבח זבח תודה בשם אדוני יקרא, נדר אדוני ישלם נדן לכל עמו. בחצרות בית אדוני בתוכך ירושלים, הללויה. הללו את אדוני כל הודו לאדוני. Nani v'mechavya, 319, the middle. Tova zov Adonai, mido Adam, koso, Adonai, mido benivim. Ozi v'zeman yad v'yeshuan. 320. Pitchu li sharet tzedek, avova modeya. Zera shal Adonai tzadikim. Yavodecha. Ani dani vadili Yeshua. Ki ani vadili Yeshua. Oh, even maso aboni maita lerosh bina.
Even maso
aboni
maita lerosh
bina me'et Adonai ha'ita zoti niflat b'einei eineinu. Ha'ita zoti
niflat b'einenu.
Ozeh hayom asa Adonai nagila nismecha bo.
Hayom asa Adonai
nagila nismecha bo. Ana Adonai Hoshiana.
Adonai Hoshiana.
Ana Adonai Hoshiana.
Adonai Hoshiana.
Ana Adonai Atzlichana.
Adonai Atzlichana.
Ana Adonai Atzlichana.
Adonai Atzlichana.
Mochaba Meshem Adonai Mechem Adonai Mechem. כי לך תודות ושמך נאה לשמח, כי מעולם עד עולם אתה אל, ברוך אתה אדוני מלך מהולל ותשבחו. You may be seated. 321. יתקדש ויקדש שמי רבה, ואמר יברך ירדים מחמכותי בחייכון, מכון, וחלקו בישראל, ועגלה בזמן קריב ימרו, אמן, יהי שמי רבה מבורך, לעולם ועמי על מאיה יתברך. יתברך וישתבח ויתפאר ויתרומם ויתנשא ויתהדר ויתהלל שמי לקודשה לעילם מכל ברכתה ושורתה שכתה ונחמתה, דמירם בימה וימרו. כי כבצתון ואותו נכו ישראל, כד והון ושמי וימרו. יהי שלום רב מן שמי וחיים, עלינו וכל ישראל וימרו. עושה שלום ממרמה, והוא יעשה שלום עלינו וכל ישראל, ועל כל יושבי תבל, וימרו.
אמן.
אין כמוך, אלוהים אדוני, מלכותך מלכות כל עולמים וממשלתך בכל הדור ודור אדוני מלך אדוני מלך אדוני ימלוך לעולם ועד אדוני עוז למועדן אדוני ועד עמו בשלום ויהי בצהרון ויאמר משה ואמר אדוני ויפוצו אויביך וינוסו משנאיך מפניך כי בציון תצא תורה כי בציון תצא תורה ודבר אדוני וירושלים בראש שנתן תורה תורה בראש שנתן תורה תורה לעמו ישראל בקדושתו אדוני אדוני נוזר חסד לעלבים, נוזר עוון ופשע, ואתה ונקה, אדוני, אדוני, רחום וחנון, ערך אביי, חסד ואמת, נוזר חסד לעלבים, נוזר עוון ופשע, ואתה ונקה, אדוני, אדוני, רחום וחנון, ערך אפיים, חסד ואמת, נוזר חסד לעלבים, נוזר עוון ופשע, וחטא ונקה. שמע ישראל, אדוני אלוהינו, אדוני אחד.
שמע ישראל, אדוני אלוהינו, אדוני אחד.
אחד אלוהינו, גדול אדוננו, קדוש שמו.
אחד אלוהינו, גדול אדוננו, קדוש שמו.
גדלו לאדוני איתי, ונרוממה שמו יחדיו. לאדוני הגדולה, הגבורה, התפארת, והנצח וההוד. כי כל השמיים ובארץ, כי כל השמיים ובארץ, לך אדוני הממלכה, ויביס נעשה דרכו. וישתחוו רגליו ידרשו. v'yishavu Shavuot, Kadosh, Adonai Eloheinu. Baruch Hashem.
Etz Hayim,
Hilem v'chazikim b'vetohea, Meushar Etz Hayim, Hilem v'chazikim b'vetohea, Meushar, na 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 na, Shalom, Shalom, Chag sameach, Shalom, 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 Shalom. Maybe seated, everybody. Chag sameach, everybody. We're psyched to have everybody here. Another Yantif to daven and receive the Torah. Awesome. You can follow in your Chumashim on page 436. We're going to be doing the 10 statements, as they say, the 10 commandments. Havu, Golda, Leilo, Hindu Kavod La Torah, Yamod, Daniel ben Pesach Rachel, Aliyah Rishona, Baruch Shnetan, Torah Yisrael B'Rishato, V'atem Advikim Baronai, Elohechem Chayim Hayom.
Baruch Hu Asher Noyim Baruch.
Baruch Hashem Baruch Le'olam V'ed.
Noyim Baruch Le'olam V'ed. Bechukotai Adonai Eloheinu Melech Haolam Asher Bonu Mikol Amim V'notan Lanu Et Torato Bechukotai Adonai Notein HaTorah.
Amen.
Amen. B'chodesh hashlishi l'tzeit b'nei Yisrael me'eretz Mitzrayim v'yom hazeh Bamidbar Sinai v'yisu merfidim v'yavo midbar Sinai v'yachanu b'Bahar v'yachan sham Yisrael neged ha'har u'Moshe el ha'Elohim v'yikra elav Adonai min ha'har le'mor Koit tamar levet Yaakov v'taged livnei Yisrael Atem ritem asher asiti l'Mitzrayim v'yesa etchem al kan v'nesharim v'yavi etchem elai v'yata et im shemoa tishmu v'koilihi ushmartem et britihi v'yitem li segula mikol ha'amim ki li kol ha'aretz v'yitem tiyu li mamlechet kohanim v'goy kadosh Ela hadvarim asher tidaber el b'nei Yisrael.
Baruch Atah Adonai Eloheinu Melech Haolam Asher Natan Lanu Torah Emet B'chai Olam Netabet Tocheinu Baruch Atah Adonai Notein HaTorah.
Amen. Shekoyach, Shekoyach. Our second Aliyah, verse 7, page 438. Nalamod Elakami Beit Elazavayenta Aliyah Shinit.
Baruch Hu et Adonai Hamvorah.
Baruch Adonai
Baruch Adonai Hamvorach Le'olam Va'ed. Baruch Atah Adonai Eloheinu Melech Haolam Asher Bachar Banu Mikol Ha'amim V'natan Lanu Et Torato Baruch Atah Adonai Notein HaTorah.
Amen.
Amen. V'yavo Moshe v'yikra l'zigneihem v'yisem lifneihem et kol hadvarim ha'ele asher tzivau Adonai v'yanu kol ha'am yachdav v'yoimru kol asher diber Adonai naseh v'yishev Moshe et divrei ha'am el Adonai Vayomer Adonai El Moshe Hinei Anochi Vaylecha b'yavhenan Vavor Yishmaham b'dabri maha V'gam b'cha yaminu l'olam Vayaged Moshe divrei ha'am el Adonai Vayamir Adonai el Moshe lech el ha'am v'kidyashtam hayom u'machar v'chiv susim lotam vayunachonim liyom hashlishi ki b'yom hashlishi Yered Adonai li'enei kol ha'am al har Sinai v'gbalta et ha'am saviv le'mor hishamar lechem O alod Behar and Gov Bechukotai Kal Hanageya Behar Mochumat Lo Tiga Boyan Ki Sakoy Sakel or Yare Im Behemai Im Ish Lo Yechye Bim Shokaya Vel Hemaya Lo
Baruch Adonai, Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher natan lanu Torah emet, v'chayei haolam natan b'tochenu, Baruch atah Adonai, noten haTorah.
Amen. Shkoyach. Kol hakavod, our third aliyah, verse 14, page 439. It's coming forward. Invite all to please rise. We'll offer a Misha Berach for Cholim. As I pause in the midst of the prayer, I invite you to quietly name. You guys can start walking up here. It's okay. Got you there, lovely. Offer the names of those you're holding in your prayer. In fact, maybe since we have this nice Hamisher crowd, we can actually say them out loud. Let me call you guys up first. Yamdu Yitzchak Eliyahu ben Moshe Levabel Elayla. Velior Rivka bat Moshe Levabel Elayla. Lalei Shlishi. As I pause in this prayer, we'll take a moment to offer names. Misha Berach Avotenu Ava Mitzak Yaakov Vimotenu Sarv Kavachav Leah Uyivarech Rapeh Et Hacholim. As I look out towards Deborah, I want to say any names of those that are holding in English or Hebrew for prayers of healing. Anybody? Feel free to say it out loud or keep it in your heart if you'd like.
Stephen Messing?
Beautiful. Anybody? Anyone else?
Yeah. Yenta Malka, Alan Bloomberg.
Lane Glass, of course. Anybody up here have any specific names?
Albert Lippman, Mike Greenfield, Bob Grunfeld, Sarah Bat Avraham.
Good, all those in our congregation as well. Kadosh Baruch Hu merachamim aleihem, lachzikam rapotam, v'yishlach lehem rafua shlema min hashamayim, for tenefesh fat aguf. בטוח שהחולים מחזק, עוסקים בצרכיהם. יום טוב ונזוק, רפואה קרובה לבוא שתה בגלה בזמן קריב, ונאמר אמן. You may be seated. To our third aliyah, verse 14, page 439.
Baruch
Baruch
Adonai
Baruch
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher bachar banu mikol ha'amim v'natan lanu et Torato Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen.
Amen. Vayered Moshe min har el ham, vaykadesh et ham, v'chavsu simlotam, vayomer ham, hayu nachonim l'shloshet yamim, al tegashu Elisha, vayihi, vayom hashlishi, vayot haboker, vayihi, kalor v'rakim, v'nan kabed al har, v'kol shofar chazak meyod, v'yecherad kol ha'am asher b'machaneh, v'yotze Moshe et ha'am lekrat Elohim yamachaneh, v'yidyatvu b'taktit ha'har, Behar Sinai Ashen Kulahu Mitnei Asher Yarad Alav Adonai Baish V'al Ashno Ke'eshen Hakiv Shahan V'yecharad Kol Ha'har Meyod V'yehi Kol HaShofar Holek v'chazek me'od. Moshe yidaber Elohim yanenu v'yanenu v'kol.
Shkoyach.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher natan lanu Torat emet v'chayei olam nata b'tochenu Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen. Shkoyach. Eli, don't go away so quickly. Okay, here's what we can use the chance now. So come to the microphone. Is it cool? All right.
Sure.
Guys, this is Eli and Lily. Many of you know them when we were Gewalt, tiny little ones, no longer. They just got back from approximately a year in Israel doing an amazing program called Nativ, which is the conservative movement's, essentially Masorti movement's year in Israel gap year program, Torah study, Yiddishkeit, the whole thing. I put them on the spot at a later time. I hope not only them, but Lev Cohen also, who did a year in Israel, Young Judea, and someone I think, Meirav Batsheva, did also a program too, I know well. We'll have maybe come talk at some point at Shul on a time when we can gather together, maybe before college, whatever, we'll find a way. But I asked them, could they give a brief one reflection, one experience or something that helped them really grow as Jews, as connection with Israel, something? I was on the spot, but I give them a few minutes. Who wants to go first and tell us? All right, Eli, what do you say? What's one thing you can share with us about your amazing experience? We'd love to hear.
Okay, so I have a small story.
Yep.
It was an experience like pretty much after we had first gotten to Israel, and it was on Simchas Torah. And I was struggling a little bit because we were in Jerusalem. We were living in Jerusalem. And I was struggling a little bit to see myself in Israel because I felt it was a very polarized place in terms of religiosity and things like that. And so I went with some friends to an Orthodox shul for Simchas Torah, which was supposed to be really fun and lots of dancing and maybe a few drinks. And we went, and I felt really out of place. And so I kind of struggled with that. And then I was invited the next morning. I really didn't know where I was going to go for services the morning of Simchas Torah. And I ended up finding this community called Navat Tehillah, an amazing Reconstructionist community. And I wandered into this little garden with some friends, and there were people playing instruments and dancing barefoot in a circle. And I was like, okay, this is my spot. And I had the most amazing time. I felt very connected to the people there, connected to Israel. Yeah.
That's awesome, Eli. Thank you so much. Beautiful. All right, Lily, what do you say?
Well, so I actually didn't know how similar our answers would be, but yeah, it just made me feel really grateful to have grown up in an egalitarian space. And being there, like Eli said, it is very polarized, and not a lot of people know what the conservative movement is. So it made me really want to educate people and learn more about conservative Judaism myself, and yeah.
That's awesome, Lily. We're so grateful on the spot. You did a beautiful job. Thank you so much. We are so proud of you. We're so proud of you. Yeah. And we're so grateful your guys are back. We can't wait to hear more from you guys. Awesome. Kol hakavod, shekach. Awesome. So, now to our fourth aliyah, which we're actually going to rise in a moment. Be ready, because we're actually going to hear the 10 Commandments. Yamod, shmur fayel ben tov, l'aliyah revi'it. We're now on page 440, verse 20.
Baruch Adonai Hamarach.
Baruch Adonai Olam V'ed.
Baruch Adonai Hamarach L'Olam V'ed. Baruch Adonai Eloheinu Melech Haolam. Baruch Adonai Eloheinu Melech Haolam. Asher bono min kol ha'omin. Nosan lanu es Torato. Baruch Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen.
Amen. Vayered Adonai al Har Sinai el Rosh Hahar. V'kra Adonai l'Moshe el Rosh Hahar v'al Moshe. Vayomer Adonai el Moshe red ha'ed bam pen yehersu el Adonai l'rot menafel mimenu rab. V'gam hakohanim el Adonai yitkadeshu pen yiferot bahem Adonai. Vayomer Moshe el Adonai lo yuchal ha'am la'alot el Har Sinai. Ki ata adot tabanu le'mor hagbel et ha'har v'kidashto. Vayomer Eli Adonai lech rehed v'alita atavaron imahach v'kohanim ha'am al yehersu la'alot Elonai pein yifaratz bam vayered Moshe laham vayomer aleihem.
Please rise, everyone.
Vaydaber Elohim et kol hadvarim ha'ele lemor. Anochi Adonai Elohecha asher hotzeiticha Eretz Mitzrayim Mibeit avadim Lo yelecha Elohim acherim al banah Lo ta'aseh l'chol fesel v'chol tumunah Asher b'shamayim imahav Asher V'haaretz mitachat Asher b'mayim mitachat haaretz Lo tishakavei lahem v'lo ta'avdem Ki anochi Adonai Elohecha Elkanah Paked Avanavod al banim al shaleshim v'al rabim l'sonai v'yosei chesed la'ilafihim lo havai ulshamrei mitzvotai Lo tisa et shem Adonai Elohecha l'shav ki lo yinakeh Adonai et asher yisa et shemo l'shav Zachor et Yom HaShabbat Sheshet Shamim Tavod V'asita kol malachtecha V'yom HaShvi'i Shabbat l'Adonai Elohecha Lo ta'aseh kol malacha Atam v'chaveitecha Avdecha v'yamedecha uv'hemtecha V'gercha asher b'sharecha Ki sheshet shamim Asah Adonai Et hashamayim v'et haaretz Et hayam v'et kol asher b'ham V'yanach b'yom hashvi'i al kein V'rach Adonai yom hashavat v'kashehu Kabed et avicha v'yetimecha L'man yirchon yamecha adamaha Asher Adonai Elohecha noten lach Lo tirtzach Lo tinaf Lo tiganoiv Lo tane v'reacha ad shaker Lo tachmod beit reyecha Lo tachmod Eshet reyecha V'yavdo v'yamato v'shoro v'chamaro v'chol asher
Shkoyach.
Bechukotai no'elam melech olam, asher nosan lono teras nemes, v'chayei olam notav b'sakenu, Bechukotai no'e noten ha'torah.
Amen. You may be Sir Shekach. Kol hakavod, Jeff. Wow, beautiful, beautiful. Fifth Aliyah, verse 15, page 449. Yamod, Shlomo ben David Mechul, Rivkalei al Aliyah Chamishit.
Baruch et Adonai Havarach.
Baruch Adonai
Baruch Adonai Havarach L'olam Va'ed. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech olam asher bachar banu mikol ha'amim v'natan lanu et Torato. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen.
Amen. V'chol ha'am ro'yim arakalot yohabadim v'yet kol ha'shofar v'yet ha'har shein v'yarham v'yanu v'yamdu merachok v'yamru el Moshe daber atay manu v'nishma V'el yedaber imanu Elohim pein namut. V'yermer Moshe Elohim al tirahu ki levavur Nasso deitchem ba Elohim uvavur tiyeh yirato al penechem levil ti techatayu v'yamod ha'menachod Moshe nigash el ha'rafel asher shem ha'Elohim v'yomer Adonai el Moshe Kotomar el bnei Yisrael, atem ritem kimini shemayim dibarti machem, lo tasuni ti Elohei chesef, Elohei zahav, lo tasu lachem, mizbach adamah tasei li, v'zavakta alai, et olotecha v'et shlomecha, et soncha v'et bekarecha, v'kol ha'makom asher azkir et shemehi, avo elecha v'eraticha, v'mizbach avanim tasei li, lo tivnei et hen gezit, ki chavacha ha'hinafta aleha, v'tadaleha, v'lo tale, b'malot al-mizbachihi, asher lo tigalehi, avatacha Allah.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech olam asher natan lanu Torah emet v'kayei olam nata b'tzokenu. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen. Shekach, we rise together. Yid gadal ve'yid kadash shmei rabba v'yamad v'achirutei v'amlich machutei v'ayehonu v'yamehon ochayro beit Yisrael v'agala v'agala ובזמן גריב ימרו, אמן, שמרה ונבורה, לעולם ועלמיה יתבר, יתברך וישתבח, ויתפאר ויתרומם, ויתנשא, ויתעדה, ויתעלה, ויתעלל, שמרו לשם, בריחו לילה מקובר חדה ושירתה, וחדה, ונחמדה, דמירן ויומם, וימרו. Okay, to lift and dress the first Sefer Torah. Is it Henry? Yamod. Tzvi ben Yaakov Aruv, Magvia Sefer Rishon. Tamod. Bran Esther Bat Baruch Vitamir Goleret Sefer Rishon. Wrong one, Henry. Check. Is this the right one? Is this the right one to lift, Jay? I thought it was that one to lift.
Yeah.
This is the
Yeah,
new Torah,
yeah.
right? Henry, you okay? Brian, stay close. Vizot, stay close. Asher Samoshe Le'Neres Al Pi Adon Yasher koach. Henry kolakova. We may be seated, everyone. The way Henry lifted that, he did like, I don't know, a guy who's a, young buck. I'm impressed. A bucker over here, Henry. I'm impressed. You've been working out, clearly, Henry. I'm impressed. Shkoch. We now call for our Maftir Aliyah. We are on page 932, the book of Numbers, special korbanot for Shavuot, chapter 28, verse 26, 932. Yamod Yosef ben Kadesh lamaftir.
Baruch hu et Adonai hamvorach.
Baruch Adonai
Baruch Adonai Baruch Le'olam Voed. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam. Asher b'chabanu mikol hamim v'nahatan lanu et Torato. Baruch atah Adonai notein haTorah.
Amen.
Uyam v'korim b'hakri b'chem Milcha kadosh Adonai b'shavuotechem Mikra kodesh yelechem kol malachet avodah lo tasu v'hikrabtechem olah l'reach nikol Adonai parim b'devakar shanayim ayilechad shiva Chuvasim bereshanaha uminchatam soleh belulav v'shamen shalosh esronim laparechad shnei esronim la'il echad Isaron lekeves echad l'shivat hagvasim sirizim echad l'kaper alechem Milvad olad atamid mikato tasu timiyu lachem v'nizkehem. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher natan lanu Torah emet v'chayehi olam nata b'tochenu. Baruch atah Adonai notein haTorah.
Amen. Yasher you have beautiful reading. We rise together for the second Sefer Torah. Leonard. Yamor Eliezer ben Pinchas Dvora Magvia Sefer Sheni. And who is dressing the second Sefer? Yamor David ber ben Chaim Golel Sefer Sheni. V'zot haTorah Hashem Sam Moshe Livnei Bnei Israel V'Adonai V'Ad Moshe Page 1321. My favorite haftarah the whole year is this Shavuot haftarah. Prophet Ezekiel. Many of you know Yechezkel. I don't know if you're going to say a few words, Chef. Are you going to say something? Okay. Please. Is one of the, some people think he was hallucinating. He has a beautiful, amazing dream about a chariot and all kinds of things happening with angels. One of the key phrases, the connection is Ratzova Shov, that the angels were fluttering back and forth. Ratzova Shov. And the Hasidic masters, the Kabbalists say this reflects the spiritual life of the Jewish people. That we go up on Har Sinai and get the Torah, but then we go back down and there's a golden calf. And this is a lot of life. It's Ratzova Shov. It's up and down. It's up and down spiritually. Spiritually up, connected to the Holy One. Down, distant from the Holy One, making mistakes. But it's a reminder, the Torah is always close to us. It's right here. The Ten Commandments are right here. And that's why it's a beautiful connection, because it's a time when God reveals God's self. We should feel close. And even though we might fall, we can come back again. That's a beautiful connection to Haftarah. I love it very much. Do you have anything to add to that, or is that it?
Yes, please. To pick up on what you said and Rabbi Jenny and everything and what she teaches here. First of all, Chag, Shavuot, Chag sameach Shavuot, I guess. Okay. And a Kabbalos HaTorah v'simcha, much joy in receiving the Torah. Now, to add this is sort of along the lines of some of what Rabbi Jenny teaches, which is you want to try to immerse yourself in the Haftorah as if you were there. It's another page out of the Haggadah, where you're supposed to be there as we go out of Egypt. And so in this case, you're supposed to be there. We're going to try to make you be there with Ezekiel. And I'm going to give you a little Leonard Bernstein here, and then we'll get to it, which is the way we'll do it is using the tempos of this Haftorah. We'll start out very moderately in Andante, and then about 2/3 through, we'll begin to pick up some speed and to an allegro, and near the end, we'll be going allegretto, very, very, very fast, to the penultimate. And so I just want to warn you, there's a penultimate here, so if you see a stop or something, don't be worried, And then we finish with a couple of lines of very nice lyrical largo. So you'll see how it goes, and hopefully it transports you with Ezekiel and the rest of the pilgrims as well. But first, the brachot. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher bachar b'nviim tovim v'ratza v'divreihem hanemarim behemet. Baruch atah Adonai Habocher b'Torah Moshe Avdo u'Yisroel Amo u'v'nvi'ei ha'emet v'tzedek v'yehi b'shloshim shana barvi'i b'chamisha l'chodesh ani v'toch hagola Al nahar kevar niftechu hashamayim va'eret maharot Elohim v'chamisha lachodesh hi hashana hachamishit legalut hamelech Yoyachin. Hayo haya Dvar Adonai Yechezekel ben Buzi HaKohen Yeretz Kastim Al Nahar Kevar Vadhi Elam V'Sham Yad Adonai V'hine ruach sarah amin atzafon anan gadol v'hesh mitlakachat v'nogalo saviv umitocha ki ein hachashmal mitoch ha'esh umitocha demut abar chayot v'zeh marein demut adam lahena v'arba panim lechat v'arba kenafayim lachat lahem v'ragleihem regel yeshara v'chaf ragleihem kechaf regel egel v'notzotzim ki ein nechoshet kalal v'dev adam mitachat kanafehem al bari vehem ufnehem vechanvehem liarabatam chovarod ishal achota kenafehem lo yisbehu valektan ishel ever panav yelehu Udmud panechem panei adam Ufnei aryel hayamin liarbatam Ufnei shal mekshahu liarbatam Ufnei nesher liarbatan Unfehem, v'chanfehem, ferudot, milmalalish, shetayim chavarot ish, ushtayim machasot en gevioteina. V'yishelever panat yelechu el asher yeshamaruch lalechet yelechu lo yisabu v'lechtan udmud hachayot Marehem kegachaleyesh Borarot kamarei halpidim Hi Mit halachet Ben hachayot Venogan lahesh Umi haesh Yotzei Baharak V'hakayot Ratzot vashol kemarei habazak merei hachayot v'hine u'ifachad ba'aretz etzel hachayot le'arbat panayv Marei haufanim u'masehem ki yen tarshish udmut echad li'arbatan u'mareihem u'masehem asher yeh ha'ofan b'toch ha'ofan al harbad rivehen Balechtam yelechu lisabu balechtan egam behen uvagova lahem v'yira lahem v'gabotam malayot einayim sahavi liarbatam Ulechet hachayot yelechu ha'ofanim etzalam Uvinaseh hachayot me'al ha'aretz Yinasu ha'ofanim al asher yesham haruach lalechet yelechu Shama haruach lalechat ha'ofanim Yinasu la'umatam Ki ruach ha'chaya ve'ofanim Lektam yelechu uvamdam yamodu Uvinasam Me'al ha'aretz Yinasu ha'ofanim le'umatam Ki ruach ha'chaya ve'ofanim Udmud Al Rashi Hakaya Rahakia Kien Hakera Hanora Natu Al Roshem Milmala Vetakarakia Kanfehem Yasharod Isha Elachota Lish Shetayim Mechasod Lehena Ulish Shetayim Mechasod Lehena En Yaviotehem V'yeshmahad kol kanfehem kikol mayim rabim kikol shadai belektam kol hamula kikol machanehe yamda tarpeina kanfehem v'yikol Meyah Larakia Asher Al Rishom Yamda Tarpeina Kanfehem Umima Larakia Asher Rosha Kemare Even Sapir Demut Kiseh Vial demut hakiseh demut kemare adam alai milmala ve'era kein hashma kemare shebeit lahasaviv mimare mahatnav umalahav mimare matnav umataha rayiti kemare V'noga lo saviv Kamare hakeshet asher yeh v'yanan v'yom hageshem Kain mare hanoga saviv hu mare demut kavod Adonai v'arei v'pahol al panai V'yeshma kol midaber Vatsaheni ruach V'yeshma ha'charai kol rahash Gadol together. Baruch kavod Adonai mimakomo. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam tzur kol amim tzadik b'chol hadorot Ha'el ha'neiman ve'omer ve'oseh hamdaber umkayim shekol devarav emet v'tzadek ne'emana atahu Adonai Eloheinu ve'namin devarecha v'davar echad midvarecha achor lo yeshuv reikaham ki el melech ne'eman v'rachaman atah baruch atah Adonai ha'el ha'neiman b'chol devarav Rachem al Zion ki beit chayenu v'laluvat nefesh toshia b'mheira v'yameinu baruch atah Adonai v'sameach Zion b'vaneha Samchenu Adonai Eloheinu b'Eliyahu hanavi avdecha uv'malchut beit David meshichecha b'mheira v'yavo yagel libeinu al ki solo yeshev zahar v'lo yinchalu od acherim et kavodehu Ki v'shem kachekanish batalo shelo yichbeinei ro li'olam voed baruch atah Adonai Magen David
Amen.
Al haTorah v'al avodah v'al hanviim v'yom Chag haShavuot hazeh Shenatata lanu Adonai Eloheinu L'sasahon u'lesimcha, l'chavod u'tifaret. Al hakol Adonai Eloheinu, אנחנו מודים לך ומברכים אותך, יתברך שמך בפיק כל חי תמיד לעולם ועד, ברוך אתה אדוני, מקדש ישראל והזמנים.
Amen. Shakokja, beautiful Korea on all levels. Kol hakavod. We rise together, invite those honored to carry the Sefer Torah to come forward. Page 183. Hallelujah, et Shem Adonai, in his yad levado, Hadai Shamayim, Ayaren Geren Le'amo, Tila Lecho Azida, Line Yisrael Angerovo, Hallelujah, Hallelujah. LeDavid mizmor, LaDonai haaretz umloa, tevel ve'yosre v'arehu yayadim, yesada ya'er yoleleya, mi'ale ve'ar Adonai, o mi'yakom imko, hatsho yavicha, Aleva, Asher lo yasa l'shana shir, Yamir ma Isa rachamei Adonai, Odedeho, Kacho yevicha ba'im ovaleva, Asher lo yasa l'shana shir, Seu sharim rashechem, Omerei ve'olam, ve'yavo melech hagavod, ve'yozem melech hakavod, Adonai tevot, Adonai ozu gibor, Etz Hayim lemazigima v'tohea meushav nerachea darchenoam ehon esivosea shalom Hashivenu Adonai Elecha v'nashua Hadesh Hadesh Yameinu Hadesh Yameinu Hadesh Hadesh Yameinu Hadesh Yameinu Tov, let me see everyone. Good yontif, everyone. Be seated. Okay, Chevra. Great to see you in this yontif. We are so blessed again. Eli and Lily Kol hakavod on the spot pulled it together. A little commentary on their experience. We'll hear more later. Copy of the study. We're going to learn about the great Hillel on the Shavuot, who's super committed to Torah learning. If you're following at home, you can look at the connection next to the live stream. Should be a little link. We're going to read a famous Agadah about Hillel and how he got fired up for Torah study. And when we look at this, there are multiple comments I imagine will be a vote from you. But the two that I want to focus on is there's a sociological kind of economic question about Torah study back in Talmudic times and who was let in and who was not let into the house of study, the Beit Midrash. That's one aspect. And the other piece is specific to Hillel, about his commitment to study and kind of what's the metaphor, this story, whether, 100% happened exactly like this, we don't know. It's very cute. It reflects a lot, though, but it talks about kind of who was Hillel, what was his commitment, and kind of what is the ultimate vision about Torah learning and study for all that the Jewish people we evolved over time thanks to Hillel. So let's look at Hillel both socioeconomically, his story, and also about Hillel himself. So, Rabbi Jay, will you read out here this great story, Agadah, about Hillel from the Gemara? Baksha.
It is reported about Hillel the elder that every day he used to work and earn 1 tropek,
which is like a little half a shekel or very little money. Okay.
Half of which he would give to the guard at the house of study. The other half he used on food for himself and the members of his household. One day he was unable to earn anything, so the watchman at the house of study did not let him in. He then climbed to the roof and hung on, sitting over the opening of the skylight, so that he could hear the words of the living God from the mouths of Shemaiah and Avtalion. It is said that it was Erev Shabbat in the winter solstice, and snow came down on him from heaven. When the dawn rose, Shemaiah said to Avtalion, "Brother Avtalion, every day this house is bright with light, but today it is dark. Is the day cloudy?" And when they looked up, they saw the figure of a man in the skylight. They climbed to the roof and found Hillel covered with 3 cubits of snow. They removed the snow from him, bathed and anointed him, and as they seated him in front of an open fire, they said, "This man deserves to have the Shabbat profaned on his behalf."
Okay. There's a lot going on here. But in the first line, or 2 lines, he'd earned a half a shekel, or a little tropek, half he'd give to the... There's a guard at the house of study. What the heck is a guard doing at the house of study? Thoughts? Yes, Henry, what do you say?
Collecting money.
You're saying this is like the dues paying aspect of Beth Mar Synagogue? No, I didn't say it. All right. So the guard is collecting money, but the point is that why would there need to be a guard collecting money? What would be the point of keeping people in and keeping people out? Thoughts? Ellen?
Well, there's another story in the Talmud, and I don't know if this is, I think it came later actually,
Yeah.
about Rabbi Gamliel,
Yes, correct.
who had been taught that only those who deserve
Correct. That's going to come back with it. Yes.
And there were others in that Sanhedrin who said, no, anybody could come. And they got into an argument about it, and then Gamliel was kind of deposed.
Correct.
Kicked out. He was the head of the whole thing. And the others basically won. And the next day, all these benches appeared in the house of study, which weren't there, because the other rabbi said, anybody who wants to come in can learn. So that's what this reminds me of, is that conflict between Gamliel and I can't remember who the head of the other rabbis was, but that only those who are worthy, and you can define worthy however you want, or is it egalitarian and anybody can come?
Ellen, Rabbi Ellen, is knocking it out of the park here. I wish we just record this part seriously on. Because the socioeconomic issue or even educational issue, we could writ large, we take Hillel out of this. And by the way, a lot of the story clearly is about Hillel. But take him out of it. The big debate, the machloket that Ellen's tapping on, which is throughout the Gemara, and there's a comment at the bottom that's really reflecting exactly what Ellen said. It's a debate about who should be in the Beit Midrash. Should it be a certain select group? Now, should a selection be based on economics primarily, or is that major piece? Should be based on their level of quote-unquote
Intellectual prowess.
Right, based on yesterday's teaching about, if your child is clever and smart, should be intellectual prowess. And should that be a basis? And there were rabbis in charge, Rabbi Gamliel most notably, who said that's who should we focus on. Wealthy and frankly, quote-unquote intelligent, but we could talk about that, whatever. Now, and therefore the guard is actually to both collect money, to both potentially upkeep the Beit Midrash, but on some level to keep out people who can't afford it. It doesn't say there's scholarship for them right now. Okay, right, who's worth it? Now, the Hillel is so committed. He's a unique case. He's basically like this incredible person who goes against all odds. He risks his life essentially. That's the end of the story. They profane Shabbat. The implication is you can break Shabbat under what circumstances? When you're saving a life. So technically, saving Hillel's life. So Hillel has to do superhuman effort, including, God forbid, risking his life just to even learn some Torah. And this is a problem. Now, Now, I want to talk about this here because, and we'll get into it. I see other Deborah's getting fired up. We're going to get in here, okay? But because one of the questions we've come up even with yesterday is about who should be teaching and how do we get, what do we gain when there's a select elite group learning, and what do we gain when we have everybody, quote unquote, learning, and what is the criteria around that, and then what's the place of Hillel? All right, excellent points, Alan. Let's go to Deborah, Steve, and go around. Deborah said, yeah.
So you said there was a metaphor, so I would suggest that the metaphor is that on the day that we bar anyone from the house of study goes dark.
Where you fit, exactly. Exactly. So now, okay, Deborah Vault. She jumped to the end punchline. All right, Deborah takes it right. What happens when you block someone out of the house of study? The skylight goes dark. No one can see. Interesting, by the way, they picked the era of Shabbat, the winter solstice. This is basically on Hanukkah time. That's when the ones are going to snow in the land of Israel, right? It's cold. He blocks, in a sense, he blocks everybody from learning, which is another way, but I know Deborah was putting your words here. Everyone cannot gain from the fullest opportunity for the community to grow in Torah if we keep out people. By the way, this is the 50th anniversary of Sally Priesand becoming the first woman rabbi. Of the many arguments of having an egalitarian learning in rabbis, one is 50% of the population were not given the opportunity to teach and lead us in Torah for generations. Therefore, we lacked not just 50% in one generation, but multiple. So one of the things is the sky was darkened means the light was, we were not given the full light of Torah because so many people were excluded from the Beit Midrash. And that wasn't just based on money. It was based on other issues, patriarchy, sexism, blah, blah, blah. And Deborah's point, and we all lost because of that. We were stuck in the darkness. You fit. Beautiful. All right, Steve, what do you say? And then I see Eli, yeah. Correct, Steve. You're making a good point. Machloket, Shem Shamayim. Okay. Nachon.
And it includes mitigations for people who can't afford it. If you're very poor, you can bring a bird.
That's right. That's right.
Contribute something. So the question is more, how could they have addressed that need better? They didn't. They didn't have the political power to enforce a broad-based taxation system to support the Midrash. And what can we learn from that?
Yes.
Which applies to current society in the sense of what is tuition at state universities? And
Correct.
supported publicly. What about the argument over support of public schools in poorer areas of the state on the whole Leandro?
Yes.
Back and forth. That is the same thing that they are addressing.
And I want to say it's here. I feel like it's like a machloket that potentially sees raising here, but really there's actually, there's quote unquote
There's a way to harmonize.
There's a way to harmonize. It's like a tosava. So Steve's bringing a beautiful point. Say, well, wait a second. Okay, yes, there could be a elitism as one way to look at it. But another way, it's practical, tachlis. We have to pay to put the sky. Someone had to put the skylight in the Beit Midrash. Okay, that costs money. All right, and how is he going to raise them? Now, the way maybe the Ellen / Robin, why Robin Gumman was deposed. Well, maybe the way they're raising the money wasn't the most kosher way. Now, Ellen doesn't necessarily disagree with that, right? The question is, how do you provide financial support of a community that wants to have a Beit Midrash, shuls, various things? We got electricity on here in his own shul. So how do you balance those things? And then even the question also is that if we make the bar too high financially, then we as a community will lose off on potential great Torah scholars that can't afford it. which will benefit all. But this is a tension. Ein kemach, ein Torah, as Rabbi Jan told me. Without flour, there's no Torah. And flour in the Gemara and the Mishnah means they're like without financial support. How do we balance these two things together? And even Steve's saying in our modern society, the Leandro craze in North Carolina public schools, the whole issue of canceling student debt or student debt in general or the cost of public universities, this question, what students get in, what students don't get in, how do we deal with the finances of it? How do we balance those things? It's still to this day the legitimate question. It's a very good point. Excellent. All right, Eli, and we'll come around. Yeah.
You got to go to job, get a job, yeah.
Eli, go get a job. Nice job! The Behar over here. So Eli's saying, wait a second. Maybe the guard is not simply collecting money in order to keep everybody out. Maybe the guard's actually playing a role of a kind of a nice, thoughtful, overseer, kind of saying, hello. Now, at this point, it's actually a good question. I don't even know if Hillel was married, had a family at this point. It's actually, I assumed he was before. It says he had a family?
Well, he says he would give the other half of his money to feed his family.
Wow, you're right. Eli's 100% right. I didn't realize that. Yes, koch. Because he's saying, Hillel, get over yourself. You're wasting half your money, and you're not worrying about your mishpacha, and you're responsible to take care of your family. That's a wonderful point. So maybe this was done essentially to say it's like, Hillel, you're off balance. You're out of control. The shomer's job is both to kind of say to people, hey, are you sure you're in balance with how you're running your economic household? That is another powerful point even considered. Kol hakavod. Wow. Dr. Jeff.
Yes, I have to amplify that was my first point.
Oh, right.
I think I read it in the commentary of Perkei Avot.
Yeah.
They had a trade.
Nachon.
It was not demeaning for a scholar to go as expected to do it. Rabbi Yochanan, and Elazar, and Eliezer, and the list goes on and on.
Nachon.
And number two, we have the Mishnah Peah in the Brachot, which we read before we get started with the morning Brachot, where it says, what are some of the things that everybody's supposed to do?
Correct.
Not just some, not just, I guess, it says, visiting the house of study morning and evening.
Okay.
Everybody is supposed to do. And then I was going to ask for help on what the Hebrew word was for this guard or whatever. Guard?
I think it's a shomer. Yeah.
Watchman who goes around and tells you the time of the day and when you're doing when you say the Shema at the first light, or was it a shomer, or a shomer in the sense of the shomer that sits with the body at the funeral or something like that? A clarification on the word, please.
So it says shomer beit midrash. I actually changed it to guard because in the translation I was using I can't remember exactly where I got it from. They'd put watchman. But I think it's still, you're correct. Shomer is the same word. And by the way, shomer is also used in modern Hebrew with a kibbutz as a shomer. And there's like a shomer in various places in Israeli army. Someone does shmirah. But in this case, I do think it means someone who's not necessarily protecting for security, but someone who's keeping people in and out. So watching watching the gate kind of thing.
I'm looking at Eli and I'm thinking about summer camp. There's always somebody whose job is to make sure that the children do not leave the cabin after curfew.
Like our kids, they never do that, right?
Shmirah.
But I want to say there's some level, so shmirah, to both your points about the issue of watching and guarding, and to Eli's point you were connecting to. So in some level, the watch person is not just watching who comes in and out, but it's making sure each person that comes to them is not doing something out of balance. And so the desire to study may be so great that they lose perspective on their own family responsibilities too. Kind of watching them in multiple ways is what Shimmer's come up with as well, Steve. Jeff, Yeshikoach. Okay, others. BJ and then Stuart, come on.
I also have like a 180-degree perspective.
I love this. Shikoach.
That are Not all of them probably even want to be there.
Right.
And so it's like this societal expectation that every round, peg has to, fit into a round hole. And again, they're all different kinds of people with all different kinds of interests. And I'm just, in a way, it's heartbreaking thinking that you've got all these boys that would probably be great, again, maybe accountants or attorneys or computer programmers or carpenters or, whatever, and they're forced into this system to basically, study.
BJ, I think BJ makes such an excellent point. BJ's particularly talking about the Haredi community, but it might say in more traditional communities in general, Jewish communities, where the goal or the prize is to be learning in a Beit Midrash setting, maybe forever, and not everyone is geared toward that, either personality-wise or discipline-wise, may have other, and frankly may have other intellectual strengths, abilities, physical strength, whatever it may be, but because it's the expectation to follow that Mishnah to the T, or for everyone, then you get everyone there. That's not necessarily going to be the one who's the most elite. And I've actually heard this discussed in some of the thoughtful Israeli policy makers. Even more secular ones will say, listen, I'm okay with some reasonable percentage of Haredi students learning the most high one. The ones that are going to give us the next generation's grade, fine. But that's like, 3%, 5%. It's not hundreds of thousands. And that's where a waste even for them and for us. And I'm going to ask for one more piece about this, is that even the Jewish Theological Seminary, JTS, which has changed a lot in recent time. But when we were in rabbinical school, and we both went to Reform, remember, but Jenny studied for a year at JTS. We had many friends there, and I studied there a bit as well. And this is less at HUC, I'm talking more at JTS, it was understood for generations. And Rabbi David Wolpe's talked about this a lot in some of his writing. He'll say that JTS, the teachers prized the number one class that you had to take the most requisite classes, and the most prized student was the rabbinical students who were the best at Talmud. Now you think of course. But if the goal of rabbinical school in America is to produce, in general, congregational rabbis. Now that has changed. Hillel rabbis, chaplains, camp, there's a lot more. But it's over in general. The majority, in fact, right now there's a congregational rabbi shortage if somebody, the economics. So the seminary's number one job is for rabbis that go into the field. Then technically, if you're the best Talmudic student, but you're not that great with the social skills, is JTS producing the right students for the job? In fact, when I met the clergy guy down the street here, who's a new clergy, the Christian clergy guy, real nice, sweet guy, at the big church on the corner, we had lunch together. This is months ago. I was talking about something. He goes, Rabbi, I was definitely a C student in seminary. I said, oh, wow. He said, no, but everybody knows the A students in seminary, they're great for getting a PhD. The B students, they're great for studying and working. He said, the C students are the best ones in the pulpit. Because they goof around, they play around, they're social, they're partying a little bit. I mean, he meant it kind of a joke, but he meant that's like a statement in their seminary. But the point is that just because you're the best student doesn't mean you're going to be the best at certain, and so the skill set is diverse in terms of what that role may be. And so I'm actually happy to say JTS things have actually evolved and changed. By the way, so has at HUC. The seminaries say, what is the point? Because the history of it is the best Talmud student was considered the best at everything. But that's not necessarily the case for all the jobs. The last thing I'm going to say about this is that in the modern rabbinate, right, one of the arguments I've seen, old contracts of the modern rabbinate will say, the rabbis are not being paid to study or teach Torah. Two ways to Talmudically. They say, the rabbi could have been a lawyer, but since the rabbi wasn't a lawyer, we're compensating the rabbi for not being a lawyer. Very Talmudic. And the other piece is we're compensating the rabbi for the parts that are not related to study and teaching. Now you're going to say, aren't the vast majority of study and teaching? Okay. Leading services? It's not. Pastoral counseling? You can find a way, sitting at board meetings, Okay. Do you see what I'm saying? Like, there's part of the modern contemporary rabbi, but that's an interesting question about to what degree, how do we manage that whole piece? Because the beautiful thought is about studying and teaching Torah shouldn't be about financial compensation for anyone, by the way. It's a beautiful thought. All right, Rabbi Joe, you say something? Right? Nope. Okay. So was someone up before Dr. J? Oh, Stuart, Vakasha. Maimonides too.
They lived in a world that was identified that there should be a stratified society, and maybe this was a response to that belief that you're keeping somebody out like a little. How can you justify this thing? So I think the whole thing is a metaphor for that.
Yes, tension.
Kind of the tension between philosophy
Yes.
and Jewish thinking.
Stuart's bringing up a great point, which is Aristotle, which Maimonides brought in full hook, line, and sinker, and this idea of the idea that a certain elite, philosopher king should be in charge. This is who should lead society. Everyone else is kind of not necessarily worth their time. I mean, you might be nice to them, but in general, that you have like this elite group you should be focusing on. And I think I just want to resolve that and say, Stuart, your great point. One of the challenges, of course, in America, and it's not just, we talked about women here, but when we've excluded anyone, whether for sexual identity or skin color historically, or people who are immigrants, whatever it may be, that we don't fully, is that we are missing out potentially in an aspect of our population that could be the next, if we gave them the chance to enter through the door, right? I think an interesting point that's sort of actually kind of maybe a resolution of these two arguments is, maybe we let everyone at first come through the door, but at a certain point, we then say, okay, and this is kind of the role of maybe to some degree of a weeding out. Now, how do we do that in a fair way? I mean, this is the question. Like, not everyone's designed to spend all day long at a Beit Midrash. By the way, including me. I can't sit all day and do this. That's not my strength. I mean, I can do a little bit, but Gavalt, I have shpilkas, okay? I can't sit there all day. So it's like, I know I'm not going to be that person. I'd self-select out, right? But so the question, how do you get the general of the population, make the doors wide open to get the most people in, and then find out, okay, this person really is, oh my God. They might not have come from the best social circumstance. Maybe they had challenges for not their fault. But you know what? Let's lift them up and give them a huge scholarship. Like, that's the tension. How do we lift people up? We can recognize there are some people who are better at it than others, but can we give everyone an entree from the beginning? I think that's the tension we're talking about here. All right, Jeff, last few comment, we'll wrap up. Yeah. Yeah.
If this shomer had been present in the time of Aaron's sons, Abihu and
Yes.
Nadav.
Nadav and Avihu.
Be alive a little longer.
So. Shkoyach.
There have been some useful purpose to what the shomer was doing.
Just a great point. In fact, I can say, look, there are times when people have such religious zeal or a potential or excitement, but they're doing it at the detriment of something else. By the way, one of the roles that me and Jenny play and the tutors play with B Mitzvah students, by the way, right, is some B Mitzvah students will say, I want to lead everything and do everything. By the way, and that's what we want. We want every student to do everything. But sometimes the toll on their anxiety or stress or on their parents is a lot. And we have to say to them, guys, hold. Please, God, you'll have more chances to learn more aliyahs. But this B Mitzvah, just do one this time, or two, and hold back. So part of our job also is to say to a student, okay, you're fired up, that's great, but lat, shwai, do a little bit at a time and get to that place, or you might do too much, and it may be a consequence for that as well. You fit. Awesome study. Shikoch. You can pass your text to the middle. Some of our chevra collect them. You hold on to it. We're now going to rise to wrap up our davening. Musaf for the Shalosh Regalim. We'll start with a Chatzi Kaddish on page 342. We rise together.
יתגדל ויתקדש מרבה, ומה תברכותי וימליך מלכותי, וחייך ביום אחד, ובחידך בית ישראל, ועגלה, ובזמן קריב ימרו, אמן. יש מרבה מבורך, לעולם עולם מעמיה יתברך, יתברך וישתבח, ויתפאר ויתרומם, יתנשא ויתהדר ויתעלה, ויתעלה שמי לקודשה
בריחו.
אלא מכל ברכתה ושירתה
ושמחתה ונחמתה והמהירה מיומה.
Amen.
Over our feet together, I invite you to turn to page 355. 355, 357, we'll dive in together. There are beautiful poetry and piyutim for the Musaf of Shavuot.
Adonai sefatai tiftachu
Ovi agidei latecha, Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu ve'Elokei Avotenu v'Imotenu, Elohei Avraham, Elohei Yitzchak, ve'Elokei Yaakov, Elohei Zara, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel ve'Elokei Leah, האל הגדול, הגיבור והנורא, אל עליון גומל חסדים טובים, ובונה הכל, וזוכר חסדי אבות ואימהות, ומביא גואל לבני בניהם, למען שמו באהבה, מלך עוזר, חוקר מושיע ומגן, ברוך אתה אדוני, עין אברהם ופוקד שרה, אתה גיבור לעולם אדוני, מחיה מתים את הרב להושיע, מוריד הטל, מעקל חיים בחסד, מחיה מתים ברחמים רבים, שמח נופלים ורופא חולים, ומתיר אסורים, ומקיים אמונתו, שני עפר מחמוך בגבורות, ומדומה לה, מלך ממית ומחיה, ומצמיח ישועה.
ונאמן אתה לחיות מתים, ברוך אתה אדוני,
בשמו
לחיי המתים.
אמן.
נריצך ונקדישך כסוציח שרפי קודש, המקדישים שמך בקודש, ככתוב על נביאך,
וכרזל זה ויאמר קדוש קדוש קדוש
אדוני צבאות,
מלוא הארץ כבודו.
כבודו מלא עולם, משרתיו שואלים זה לזה, האם יקום כבודו לעומתם, ברוך יאמר,
ברוך כבוד אדוני ממקומו.
ממקומו הוא יפם ברחמים, ויחונם מייחדים שמו, ערב ובוקר בכל יום תמיד, פעמיים ביעבר שמה אומרים,
שמע ישראל אדוני אלוהינו אדוני אחד.
הוא אלוהינו, הוא אבינו, הוא מלכנו, הוא מושיענו, והוא ישמינו ברחמיו שנין לעיני כל חי, יהיו לכם לאלוהים.
אני אדוני אלוהיכם.
אדיר אדירנו אדוני אלוהינו, מה אדיר שמך בכל הארץ, והיה אדוני למלך כל הארץ, ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד, ושמו אחד, ובדברי קודשך כתוב לאמור,
ימלוך עד העולם אלייך ציון, לדור ודור, הללויה.
לדור ודור נגיד גודלך, ולנצח נצחים קדושתך נקדיש, בשפרך אלוהינו מפנים ושני עולם ועד, כי על מלך גדול וקדוש אתה, ברוך אתה אדוני
ושמו
האל הקדוש.
אמן.
Page 203, Kaddish Shalem.
יתגדל ויתקדש שמי רבה,
אמן.
ועלמא תברח חיותי וימליך מלכותי, בחיי חונו ומכון, ובחיי לכל בית ישראל, בעגלה בזמן קריב והימרו, אמן.
יהי שמי רבה מבורא, לעולם ולעולמי ידבר.
יתברך וישתבח ויתפאר ויתרום ונישא, ויתהדר ויתעלה ויתעלה לשמי לקודשה בריחו, לילה מכל ברכתה ושירתה, תושבחתה ונחמתה, דאמירן בעלמא והימרו, אמן. תתקבל צלותון ואותון דרכו ישראל, קדם אבוני בשמי והימרו, אמן. יהי שלום ארמין שמיה, וחיים עלינו ועל כל ישראל והימרו, אמן. עושה שלום ברומם, הוא יעשה שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל, ועל כל יושבי תבל והימרו,
Rise 205. עלינו לשבח לאדון הכל, לתת גדולה ליוצר בראשית, שלא עשנו כגויי ארצות, ולא שמנו כמשפחות האדמה, שלא שם חלקנו כהם, ויגור עלינו ככל המונם, ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים, הקדוש ברוך הוא עצמות שביקו בשמיים, וכן נקווה לך אדוני. ונאמר היה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ, ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד, ושמו אחד. Page 207. By those in mourning or observing a yahrzeit on this first day of Shavuot, to rise, Kaddish Yatom. יתגדל ויתקדש שמי רבה.
אמן.
בעלמא דברה חירותי והמליך מלכותי. בחייכון ויומכון חיי לכל בית ישראל. בעגלה בזמן קריב יאמרו אמן. יהי שמי רבה מבורך לעולם עולמי עלמיה. יתברך וישתבח ויתפאר ויתרומם ויתנשא. ויתהדר ויתעלה ויתהלל שמי לקודשה
בריחו.
לילה מן כה ברכתה ושירתה, תושבחתה ונחמתה, דאמירן בעלמא ואמרו אמן. יהי שלמה רבה מן שמיה, וחיים עלינו ועל כל ישראל ואמרו אמן. עושה שלום במרומיו, הוא יעשה שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל ואמרו
אמן.
Chag sameach, everyone. Chag sameach. Davening will continue tomorrow at 9:30 once again with both davening and Torah reading beautifully in Yeshua Koach to all our leaders and readers today with Yisker tomorrow. And then tomorrow afternoon, a special Shavuot party for preschool, right, in the afternoon? We have Wednesday mini at 5:30 as usual. And Shabbat services as usual next week with a big B-mitzvah for Oren Cantor. Anything else to mention, Rabbi Jay? Guys, stay tuned also. There's a beautiful downtown Raleigh at the Raleigh Museum called Bruchim Habayim, welcoming and dealing with Jewish community welcome in North Carolina. Have you ever heard about this? June 25th, it's opening up a special exhibit. Deborah's in it, right, Deborah?
Yeah, I'm not the only one in this community. There's a lot of people from here.
Yeah.
It's an oral hymn project. We were asked to tell stories of welcome.
Check it out. Should be really awesome. Should be awesome. Check it out. Any other announcements you made? We're psyched to have Eli and Lily back. Thanks for being on the spot, taking over. Look forward to more from you guys in the future. But we are so proud. We are shepping nachas having you guys here, all right? We're so proud.
Big time. We have a beautiful lunch and more desserts that were baked with love.
So let's go make kiddush over there in the social hall?
I think we should do that.
Kiddush, let's go. Yes, annual meeting, of course, that too. Coming up. I don't know the date, but yeah, it's coming up soon.
13.
147. Well, who's counting?
Telling me? Leave it here and then we'll come back.
Okay, I guess we will.